Devin was the first to ask the question, not in a courtroom, not in an interview, but in a whisper that didn't match the cabin noise. Why did she smile when they dragged her off? That's what he asked, 42 seconds after the plane door shut behind the screaming. No one responded. Not the attendants, not the passengers. Not even the man next to him who, moments before, had been filming the scene with his phone. The footage, gone. No backups, no cloud sync. The metadata just dissolved. Devin tried explaining it to his wife later, but the words didn't come out right, like his memory was skipping ad-lib. There was no reason for the removal, no outburst, no rule broken. It's just a calm, middle-aged black woman in a forest green pantsuit. I'll seat one for C, who sat perfectly still until two men in suits not TSA, not security boarded, mid-runway, and told her to stand. She didn't resist. She stood, tucked her boarding pass into the front pocket of one of the men's jackets, and turned slowly to look at the passengers. Her smile was too full, too still, not manic, not smug. Fixed. She scanned each face like she was counting them. Her voice was soft, but Devin remembers the words because they didn't make sense. I need you to remember August 19th. That's when the plane lands. The plane was already in the air. That's when the pressure started building in Devin's chest. It's not anxiety, something deeper, something cellular. He described it to his therapist as like, my blood was listening. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way the woman let herself be taken. How no one questioned it. How no news channel reported it. Not even a Reddit thread. He emailed the airline, got no reply. He filed a public records request. Denied. He tried FOIA. Nothing. 3 nights later, his smart TV flickered to static at 2:11 a.m. Devin had never turned it on. He lives alone. Doesn't sleepwalk. The static cut to video for exactly 8 seconds grainy black and white footage of a jetliner parked in an empty hangar. Through the grain, a familiar figure. The woman in green, walking calmly beneath the wing. But something was wrong with her shadow. It didn't follow her. It led her. When Devin blinked, the screen was black. The file didn't exist. That morning, a package arrived at his door. No label. Just a small box and a note inside. One line typed in courier font. No return address. Asterisk, asterisk. She didn't pull $4 billion from the airline. She returned it. Asterisk, asterisk. The letter smelled faintly like jet fuel. Devin dropped it, but something told him not to throw it away. He didn't. He placed it in the freezer, like instinct demanded it be preserved, like something ancient, delicate, or radioactive. He's not the only one. People are starting to remember things they weren't present for. A woman in St. Louis woke up fluent in a language she can't name. A child in Phoenix drew a flight manifest from memory names, dates, codes that don't match any existing airline. A pilot in Anchorage walked off the runway mid-flight simulation and vanished in front of 20 witnesses. Gone. No flash. Just gone. But this isn't about the disappearances. It's not about the money. It's about what she said. August 19th. That's when the plane lands. Only now, it's August 4th. And one of the passengers on that flight just woke up with a boarding pass stapled into their skin. It started with the smell. Devin knew jet fuel. He'd grown up near Hartsfield, watched planes cut low across the Georgia sky like quiet gods. But the scent that filled his apartment that morning, thick, bitter, almost sweet, wasn't just fuel. It was old, like it had been burned in another century and had taken the long way back. It clung to the note he found, sure, but now it seemed to bleed from the freezer itself, from the walls, from his own skin, when he wiped sweat from his neck. He took 3 showers. Nothing helped. His neighbors said nothing. Not even the old man across the hall who always complained about curry or pot or whatever smells he didn't like this week. They just looked at him like they'd forgotten he'd lived there. The boarding pass stapled into the man's skin. He hadn't seen it with his own eyes. It was a voice message, sent by someone calling themselves Fielding. Devin didn't know anyone by that name. The number was scrambled, full of O South and 9 South. The voice was calm, made to calm, like someone reading back a memory they didn't live. Passenger ID 19 Charlotte 2 was found in the Echo corridor. The voice said, boarding tag affixed. Pinned beneath the dermis. No blood. No signs of injury. When asked how it got there, subject repeated the phrase, she never left the plane. Over and over. then stopped breathing, then started again. No pulse. Devin replayed the voice message 14 times. On the 15th, the message changed. Same timestamp, same sender. But now the voice stuttered. It coughed in the middle. It cried. And most disturbingly, it said something new. You sat next to her, didn't you? She touched your arm. Devin hadn't told anyone that. Not even his therapist. He'd remembered it like static, her hand brushing him in the aisle. Barely a second, but the warmth of it lasting too long. But now it pulsed in his memory. Like the moment had volume. Like it had weight. He checked his own skin. Nothing. No staple. No wound. But under his sleeve, near the shoulder, a discoloration. The exact shape of a thumbprint. He tried to tell someone he called Tomaray's ex. She picked up, then went quiet when he said her name. Who is this? She asked. How did you get this number? She'd blocked him a year ago, changed her number. He remembered the way she cried when he told her about the flight. How she made him swear he'd never fly that route again. Tam, he whispered. It's me. It's happening again. Her voice went cold. Devin's dead, she said. Please stop calling. The line cut. He checked the number. It was his. The next day, the news reported a minor electrical fire in the hangars outside Chicago Midway. One of the hangars housed a retired jet flight 2096, serial code ending in C4. He recognized the tail number. It was the plane. Her plane, except Evan remembered the jet being blue. The footage showed white with red trim. Same tail code, different body. Was his memory wrong? He searched his photos, but everything from that day was gone. Not just the plane. Every image, every text. Every photo from August 19, 2023 had vanished from his iCloud. When he tried to refresh, his phone shut down, not powered off. Shut down. A week passed. The date loomed. August 19th was coming again. And that's when he met Clay. Clay was waiting in Devin's apartment when he got home. Mid-40s, blue, button-up, skin like raw paper, hands too still. He didn't introduce himself. He just gestured toward the frozen note and said, "That's not meant for you." Devin didn't ask how he got in. He didn't ask who he was. Something in his body already knew. Knew in the way dogs know earthquakes or babies know not to trust certain smiles. Clay didn't blink, just stared. "You're glitching," Clay said softly. "I can hear it in your breathing. They always glitch before the jump." Devin backed away, reached for the door. Clay didn't move. "You hear the buzz yet?" he asked. "It's like a dial tone, but it never ends." "That's not your brain. That's not psychosis. That's the cabin pressurizing." Devin slammed the door shut behind him, ran 5 blocks, slept at a Motel 6. The room buzzed. The walls clicked. At 3:19 a.m., the television turned on by itself. Clay was on the screen, except now he was in a pilot's uniform. "The truth behind what no one tells you isn't hidden," Clay said. "It's just unspeakable." The screen flickered. Clay was gone. A new image. Black and white CCTV footage. Devin's apartment 5 minutes prior. He wasn't in it, but Clay was. So was she. She wasn't sitting. She was floating. Devin screamed. No one in the next room reacted. He went home the next day. Everything was as he left, except the freezer. It was empty. The note was gone. But scratched into the ice tray, faint and curved, were the words. "You remembered wrong." He wanted to believe it was all trauma. A breakdown. A buried psychotic episode surfacing after years of stress and solitude. But if that was true, how did he explain the voicemail on the burner phone he never activated? How did he explain the scar on his thigh that now looked exactly like a boarding barcode? He visited a neurologist. She was warm, kind, listened carefully, asked about his past, his father's disappearance. The childhood blackout that lasted 2 days. The dreams of the falling hallway. She ordered scans. The results came back clean. Except on the radiologist's copy, scribbled in red pen. Asterisk subject shows high-frequency scar tissue near auditory cortex. Pattern resembles acoustic pressure trauma. Asterisk. From what? Devin asked. The doctor frowned. From altitude, she whispered. But that's not possible. You've never been that high. That night, he heard breathing in the closet. It's not heavy, just ... slow. Like someone conserving oxygen. He opened the door. Nothing there. But his coat, his favorite coat, was turned inside out. Inside the pocket, another boarding pass. Same name, same seat. But this one had today's date. Devin started digging deeper. Airline records, government files, Reddit threads buried with 0 upvotes and comments disabled. He found 5 other passengers with similar experiences. Misspelled, routes redacted, stories deleted after hours. One had written an entire blog about time-locked passengers. She vanished mid-post. Her last line, asterisk, asterisk. If you see the woman in green, don't let her smile. It means she remembers you now. Asterisk, asterisk. Devin tried to find her. Her house was condemned.
Ow.
Her neighbors had no memory of her existing. On August 18th, 11:53 p.m., Devin received a letter under his door. No return address. Plain white envelope. Inside, a photo of him sleeping on a plane. The angle showed the back of seat 14D. The woman in green was behind him, but her face was blurred. And behind her, through the window, clouds. Not normal clouds. Towering, deep black columns, the kind that don't form on Earth. It's written on the back of the photo. Asterisk, asterisk, you're not on your way to the airport. You're already in the air. Asterisk, asterisk. He laughed, cried, sat down on the floor and begged the air to stop spinning. He took sleeping pills. They didn't work. He turned on every light. But shadows stayed. Impossibly dense. Curling in places shadows shouldn't live. Under his fingernails. Behind his teeth. Then came Clay's final message. Audio only. There's no crash, Devin, it said. There's only a landing that doesn't happen all at once. And then, another voice, her voice barely audible behind his. Asterisk, asterisk, check the flight manifest. You're not the passenger. You're the carry-on. Asterisk, asterisk. At exactly midnight, the power cut. The window lit up with a blue glow, as if a tarmac light had found him. He stepped toward it. Outside, in the reflection of the glass, not his own face. Hers, smiling. And then, a knock. From inside the fridge, Devin thought it ended with the knock. He didn't open the fridge at first. He just stood there, barefoot on cold tile, bathed in that pale electric blue leaking through the blinds light that shouldn't have reached this deep into the apartment. His body screamed with stillness, every cell waiting for a cue that never came. The knock didn't come again. Instead, the compressor kicked on like normal, humming, familiar, mundane. He almost laughed, told himself it was pipes, old wiring, sleep deprivation maybe. The rational mind clawing to reassert itself. He'd lost hours. The clock now read 3:17 a.m. He opened the fridge. Nothing. Not a scrap. No food, no trays, no shelves. Just a single item resting at the back against the plastic wall of cassette tape. A real one. It's black with red trim, like the kind teachers used in the 90s. Devin hadn't owned a tape player in 20 years. But he knew this tape. He knew it the way you remember an old scar, the weight of its existence more familiar than its origin. It was labeled in shaky marker. Echo 1997, do not replay, the handwriting was his. Childhood hymn. That night, he drove to a thrift store outside of town, the kind with no website and flickering exit signs. He bought a busted Walkman for $4.13. The old man behind the counter watched. Devin like he recognized him, but was too afraid to ask. Devin didn't speak, just paid and left. He sat in the car, windows up, sweat forming between his fingers as he pressed play. Static at first. Then his voice. 9-year-old Devin. Hi, I'm Devin, the boy's voice chirped. This is me at Echo Ridge. Mom says not to record, but I wanted to remember. Then silence, then screaming. Long, wet, far away but too close. Something shuffling in the background, gravel underfoot, breathing that didn't sound human or, maybe too human. Panicked words. Don't let it open. Don't let it out. It's her mouth, but not her voice. Then Devin stopped recording. New voice. Soft. Female. Clipped and practiced like a flight attendant. It was her. The woman from the plane. The woman in green. The tape clicked. Devin looked up and realized he was parked on a street he hadn't recognized, though the name was familiar. Echo Ridge Drive. No GPS history. ill route back. He sat there for what felt like hours, slowly understanding. This wasn't the first time. He hadn't just encountered something strange. He'd returned to it. Something had brought him full circle. That's when the real unraveling began. He started documenting everything: photos of the past, transcriptions of the voicemail, recordings of himself sleeping to catch the breathing sounds. He sent everything to an old college friend named Macy, a digital forensics analyst, who owed him a favor. 3 days later, she replied with an encrypted zip and a text. "This is not a hoax, Devin. Where the hell did you get this? Half the audio is encoded in a format we haven't used since 2002. The boarding pass barcode matches a flight that vanished. Midair in 97, not crashed, vanished. I thought that was just an internet myth. It was on air unsolved. But the mods deleted the thread. Devin, this isn't just psychological, it's historical. Historical. Like it's happened before." He dug deeper into Echo Ridge, found a clipping from the Atlanta Constitution dated September 4th, 1997. A small blurb, no photo. Title read, "6 found in woods outside. Abandoned airfield, all unharmed, all silent. No names, no follow-up." A place burned from memory. But something shifted after that. For the first time, Devin felt clarity. A sense that maybe this wasn't madness, or possession, or some interdimensional bleed. Maybe he had stumbled onto a classified cover-up, a government program, experimental aviation tech, time manipulation, or cognitive disruption. The voice messages, the shadows, the faces erased from glass, they could be explained. Memory glitches, psychotronic testing, hidden truths buried for national security. That was the first time he slept through the night. And that was the mistake, because false clarity is the most dangerous thing of all. When he woke up, his apartment was empty again. Not just clean, erased. Even the dust was gone. No notes, no photos, no audio. His phone factory reset, the cassette was melted into plastic sludge. Only one thing remained, burned into the drywall above his bed, like someone had seared it with a soldering iron. "You already landed, you just haven't noticed." Devin broke. He drove for hours, days. Back roads, motels. He started writing the story online, disguised as fiction. Readers began messaging him, people who had dreams of flights they never took. A man in Detroit who swore he boarded a plane in 2011 and disembarked in 1965. A woman in Albuquerque who drew an entire airline logo from memory, down to the Fontan airline that never existed. Then came the photo. From Macy. No message. Just a single image. Devin. On a stretcher. Face pale. Eyes open. Emergency lights behind him. The timestamp. August 19th, 1997. The file name. Recovered Passenger 6. Echo Field Manifest. Devin Miles. It shattered him, because this wasn't something he found. It was something he escaped, or thought he did. A repressed trauma? Government abduction? Childhood delusion? Till a second photo arrived, not of him, of the woman in green, younger, smiling, standing with Devin's mother in front of the same refrigerator, now sitting in his apartment. But Devin's mother died in 1996. This was new. His memory stuttered, clicked, slid. Things he'd forgotten rushed forward with unbearable force. The humming in the attic that never stopped, the white room with no doors, the flight attendant who visited him in the hospital and told him the jump didn't take, his mother screaming at a pilot in a dream he always thought was just bad sleep, but it wasn't a dream, 'cause that pilot was Clay. He hadn't just met him this year, they'd known him as a child, called him Captain C, and now Clay was on TV again. But not as a man, just a silhouette, just a voiceover. There's no crash, Devin, just different altitudes of memory. It's just pressure pockets in time. And then the twist. In the lower corner of the screen, a logo flickered. Not a network, not a channel. It was the same logo Devin saw on the woman's boarding pass. A looped sea wings curving inward, letters beneath it that he somehow never read before. Carry on. Not the airline, the program. They had told him he was a passenger, but he was never on the manifest. He was the object. Transported, archived, rebooted, and now he was starting to remember why. He blinked. The apartment faded. Behind his eyes, he could see the real cabin rows of empty seats, frozen mid-flight. The smell of jet fuel. The buzz behind his ears. The woman in green standing in the aisle again, smiling like she had waited long enough. She whispered one final sentence, words that twisted time, bent memory, and snapped the spine of his sanity in two. There was no flight, Devin. You're the black box. And then everything went black. Roll back to the beginning. Watch again. Listen closer. Devin wasn't alone. He hadn't been for a long time. The signs were always there, brushed off as coincidence, dream logic, or static in a frayed nervous system. But now the edges were too sharp, too deliberate. It started small, a stranger lingering half a second too long in a coffee shop mirror. The same child riding a different city's bus route hallways in yellow, always watching. Then came the notebooks, appearing in public restrooms or park benches, each with no cover, only pages of handwritten text repeating variations of the same phrase. You're not the passenger, you're the recording. Other entries followed. Different hands, different states, all unsigned. But Devin knew the shape of trauma when he saw it. Pages written like confessionals, lucid and fevered, describing dreams of non-existent gates at familiar airports, turbulence that never stops, and memories of landings that left no imprint on reality. One account described a woman in green who stood motionless outside a terminal window for 26 years. Another swore they'd met their own reflection boarding a red-eye to Phoenix, and neither spoke. All the stories ended the same way. They're not monitoring the story. They're measuring belief. Then came the dreams. Not just his. Hundreds. Devin found them stitched into the comments of obscure YouTube uploads, abandoned channels with names like Carrion Light, Echo Manifest 88, and Flight Blacks. They shared timestamps like coordinates, screenshots of blurred flight manifests, slow-motion analysis of security footage showing impossible reflections. In one clip, a TSA agent moves to scan a boarding pass, but in the mirrored kiosk, the passenger's face is blank. Another showed a crying child clinging to an invisible figure boarding gate 44, except in the next frame, there was no gate 44. He began receiving emails from encrypted addresses. You were right all along. They lied to you about the cabin pressure. Her voice isn't hers. That's why it never echoes. These weren't trolls. They were witnesses. Survivors. Whatever he was, they were too. One video stood out. It's titled simply, "Found footage from 20 years ago, restricted gate audio, do not mirror." It was grainy, time-coded, dated August 19th, 2005. Security camera angle. Devin, age 17, standing at gate 16 of O'Hare International, clearly waiting, clearly alone. But in the audio track beneath the ambient noise of the airport, a voice whispered, "Passenger confirmed, package intact." Over and over, until a female voice cut in, full of static and something darker. Echo container acknowledged. Reset in progress. Then Devin flickered. Only for a frame. A visual glitch. His face reversed itself for a full second, eyes forward, but features backward, like a reflection in something broken. The footage ended with a long tone, no explanation, no fade, just an endless cabin-style ding. He didn't remember ever being in O'Hare, and then the symbols began. Not graffiti, carvings, etched into stone, bus seats, metal poles, sidewalk cracks. At first, just faint spirals or looping Cs, then more elaborate forms, intersecting wings, barcoded feathers, eyes that blink differently depending on the time of day. One symbol showed up on an old library book, spine half-torn, but the message beneath read backwards. Devin held the book to a mirror. The title read, "Manifests Incomplete." Inside were blank pages, except page 2096. On it, a list of names. Names of people from his dreams. From the fictional accounts he'd found online, people he never met but already knew, and one new name, and written. Fresh ink. Harper Glass. That was the first time he felt watched not by someone physical, but by the very shape of reality bending toward awareness. Harper wasn't a contact, a username, or an IP address. She was reading him. Not in a metaphorical sense. He could feel it, like eyes behind his eyes. Devin searched the name, but found only one result: a handwritten letter uploaded anonymously to a defunct government leak site, dated 1997, titled, "To the one who thinks they're real." The letter was raw, intimate, desperate. Harper spoke of being the observer, documenting the shifts in narrative, of living in a timeline that kept correcting itself. She referenced Devon by name years before his plane, before the fridge, before the woman in green. She claimed she wasn't from this reality, but from one buried underneath. Not an alternate timeline, abandoned one. Ours got overwritten. Your name used to be Derek. Your mother used to live. The most disturbing part? She said she'd tried to save him once, and failed. Devon blinked, remembered the scream. Not from the cassette. From a night when he was 5, standing at the edge of his mother's bed watching her mouth move, but hearing someone else's voice come out. He hadn't remembered that in decades. It hit like a vertigo drop, one of those memories, is real because it makes everything else feel false. No. It wasn't just Harper. He started seeing people watching him. Not following recording, subtle gestures. A phone held too long, glint from a building across the street. One morning, someone had rearranged the letters on the local diner's signboard to spell, "Carry on, Devon, 14C still occupied." He stopped sleeping. Every time he closed his eyes, the seatbelt sign dinged. Macy tried to contact him again, but this time the voice on the call wasn't hers. It sounded like her, but hollow, digitally compressed, like someone had recorded her speaking underwater. She said, "You have to finish the loop. Your identity is only valid during descent." Then the line went silent, except for breathing. And then, not Macy's voice, but his own. "I remember now. I was never supposed to land." The audio corrupted. Devon tried to ignore it, act normal, buy groceries, pay rent. But his receipt showed a time stamp for August 19th, 1997. He showed the cashier. She blinked, smiled, and said, "Sometimes time doubles back on itself, like turbulence." "Just stay seated." He asked for her name. She said Harper. He ran. But the worst came when he looked into his mirror. And saw the same smear from the flight window. Not a shadow, a reflection, not his own. The woman in green, mouth moving, but no sound. Until the lights went out, Devon lit a match. On the wall, written in flame soot, were coordinates. He mapped them. They pointed to Flight Training Simulator Facility 06A. Shreveport, LA, a closed military site, abandoned since 1998. On a hunch, Devon drove there. Inside, he found dozens of sealed crates, monitor banks still powered, a wall lined with reels of black box footage, names he recognized from the notebooks. One terminal still blinking, recovery incomplete. Archiving memory files, do not interrupt. Next to it, a seat, one for C, and sitting in it, strapped in, eyes open but unmoving, was him, older, paler, breathing shallowly. The real Devon, or the one who never left? He stepped forward. But as he did, a screen turned on behind him. Harper's face. Live feed. She was crying. She said one thing. "You've been watching your own black box playback. This isn't memory. This is evidence." Then the entire building shuddered, and the screen turned white. Now, wherever Devon goes, reflections move wrong. Mirrors delay his movements by half a breath. And behind his eyes, a red blinking light never stops pulsing. Recording, recording. Because this wasn't a story. It was a surveillance review. And now you've seen it too. So ask yourself, how many times have you remembered something that never happened? And why does your name feel less yours the longer you say it out loud? They told you it was a glitch. But what the government never released was that some passengers are still in flight. We're right all along. This isn't over. You were never the viewer. You were the subject.